Assalamu alaikum. May God's peace and prayers be upon you. This is Yahia, Abdurahman. I hope that you're all doing fine. Today we are going to continue our conversation on Islam and Allah or Almighty God. Now many of us went through the experience living in the West, living in America in my case, and many of the fellow American citizens thought that Allah is a different entity than God. And many of our Muslim cohorts from many Muslim countries told us to use Allah because God has different connotations. So it's like they say, between a rock and a hard place. We finally settled on saying Allah, God. And we explained to those who not introduced to Islam that Allah is like ole in Spanish, adieu in French, and in different languages. But Allah, Almighty God, is the unique name of God in the Quranic language, and it is the same God of Adam, the same God of Eve, the same God of Abraham, and the same God of Jacob, same God of Moses and Jesus, and the same God of Prophet Muhammad. It is God of all the prophets from the Abrahamic lineage or Abrahamic family. Today I want to share with you a personal experience that I went through in America. As you know, I am a born Muslim. In other words, I did not go through the process of making a choice that Islam is my faith. My parents were Muslims, and I came to this world under the name of Yahia and became a Muslim. But I never went through the process of making that choice. Actually, I never discovered this until I came to America, until I saw young men and women who wanted to inquire about Islam, discover Islam, ask about the concept of God in Islam, and eventually made the conscientious decision to become Muslim believers in one God and become submitters of their will to the will of God. In our conversations with many of these fellow Americans, we found that the story of Prophet Abraham is a fascinating story because it went through the same experience of discovering God, Allah. As you know, Prophet Abraham came from a family that were experts in astrology, in the cosmic world, and they actually were experts in the stars. And they were worshipping idols, idols that were made out of stone, idols that never talked or never benefited any of them. Ibrahim, in Surah Al-Shu'ara, verse 70 to 75, the Quran gives us a story. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ Ibrahim. And tell them, Prophet Muhammad, the story of Prophet Abraham. إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ. He told his father and his people, what are you doing? What are you worshipping? And you know, this happens all the time. You go to somebody and say, what are you doing? Well, in a way, that will give him the message that, you know, I think what you're doing is wrong, think again. But then comes the very standard response, which we get until today in many Muslim countries and non-Muslim countries. And the answer was, as revealed in the Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, قالوا, they said, نعبد أصناما فنظل لها عاكفين. We worship idols and we will prostrate to these idols. And then Abraham pursued the argument. Then they said, Abraham, don't bother us. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قالوا, they said, وجدنا آباءنا لها عابدين. We are just imitating our parents. We are worshipping these idols because this is what our parents did. And this is the most dangerous attitude a person can take, Muslim or non-Muslim alike, that they take whatever was given to them from prior generations and they say, this is it, don't bother me with the facts. It is the responsibility of every person in this world, regardless of his or her beliefs and belief system and what they were taught in the past, to discover if what they know is the truth or not. And luckily nowadays we have a very fascinating tool, and that is the internet. You can surf the net, you can get that information in no time, you can read it and you can enrich yourself. Abraham asked, do they listen to you when you ask them to do something? Do they benefit you or hurt you? And his people and his father, they all were stunned. But then he did not stop. He pursued it further. And this is the problem again in this world. We detest, we protest, we argue, we disagree, but then we stop. We don't do much about it. Look at what Abraham did. He went through the research process, and I encourage you all to please go through this research process. Ask yourself, does what I know make sense to me? Do I believe it? Does it stick to my mind? And if it doesn't, research and read, because you will feel more and more enriched.